I want you to imagine right now, 1959. Some of you weren't born yet, I know. I was 16 years old, and I was sitting in a cafeteria in high school. I was a junior with 200 kids in the room, and I was sitting with my girlfriend, and these two guys walked in the door across the room, 200 kids, and I recognized one of them, but the other one I didn't know. And I said to my girlfriend, "Who's that guy with a suit and tie on?" He happened to have a suit and tie on. And she said, "I don't know." And I looked down at my plate of food, and this voice spoke through me that said, "I'm going to go out with him." And then it went like, I went like that, and I said, "I'm not going to go out with him, I'm going to marry him." I was speechless and breathless and wondered what was happening to me. And I felt like I was in a bubble that was inside of me and all around me, and it was vibrating, and I didn't know what it was. I was only 16. And in the bubble was a picture. And the picture was that I was married to him, and I had 2 kids and a dog, and a house with a white picket fence. Now, it wasn't just a picture, it lived inside of my body like it had already happened. And I'd never had an experience like that before, so I didn't know what to make of it. What I did from there was I was rigorous, found out what class he was in and where he parked his car and where he lived and what he did. And the guy, I was ruthless. The guy didn't have a chance. Now that I'm a little older, I'm embarrassed about what I did. But anyway, it worked. Before I was 18, I was married and had a child, a dog, and a house with a white picket fence. Wow. And married to him. I spent the next 15 years trying to figure out what happened to me. I didn't know how to explain it. I knew it was something different than what I have ever heard happen to anybody else. And I did a lot of research, a lot of meditation, a lot of reading, and came to the conclusion that what I had done was manifested a soulmate. And my definition of a soulmate is somebody who has a complementary life purpose to you and empowers you about it. In that research and self-introspection, I actually developed a system that I saw I could support women to go through and also manifest a soulmate of their own. Therein started my business 28 years ago. And I had so many successes that I became a minister so I could marry people. So as my relationship with my husband unfolded over a 40-year period of time, there was, of course, a lot of ups and downs, because just because you have a soulmate doesn't mean you don't have crisis and upset. That's a myth. The crisis and upset comes from sabotaging self. The soulmate part is foundational and connected and lives everlasting. So as human beings, we have to go through the part that's the human part. And our relationship happened to be one of those that just unfolded with growth. So we would have breakdown and breakthrough and breakdown and breakthrough, and just kept flying higher and higher, basically, and connecting deeper and deeper over the years. And one day, I got up in the morning and I was walking down the hall, and he walked past me, and he reached out to hug me, and he held me. It wasn't a regular hug. He held me for like 2 minutes, and he said, "This is so wonderful. When I retire in 3 months, we're going to take time to do more of this." And then he said, "We have such a special love, and I don't know anybody that has the kind of love that you and I have." He went into the kitchen, started cooking my breakfast, and I heard a loud noise, and I went in the kitchen, and he had dropped dead of a heart attack. Now, at the time, we'd been together 40 years, and I was with him in high school, so basically I'd never been, as an adult, I'd never dated, I'd never supported myself. I never was head of the family. So I not only had a grief process I had to go through, I also had an identity crisis, basically, of who am I? And we had adopted our grandchildren. So I was also a single mom then, which was quite challenging. However, I knew that I couldn't go to bed. I had to stay upright and walking forward and creating a life from a new perspective, which was quite actually amazing. But when I was in the middle of it, it was terrifying. And what actually happened is, after a year or two of going through, I put myself through my own process. The process that I'd put together to put other people through, I put myself through. Now, what I found in terms of women, including myself, being single, newly, and not ever having dated in my life, I realized in working with women that there's 4 things basically that women that are single are concerned about. The first is that we all have a past. I've noticed that, I don't know if you have, but and we walk this way and it's behind us, but we're looking this way, but we're bringing it with us. So the first thing in terms of if we're going to have a new, outstanding, more loving relationship in the future, we have to do something about our past. And what I found is that we can't seem to really transmute it by ourselves. We can talk about it, but talking about it's not enough. We really have to transmute it, the electrical field and the energetic composure that we bring along with us from our past. The second thing I found is that basically we don't understand men. Is that an understatement? And so you can, I'm going to give you a hint here about how to understand men. Would you like that? Yes. So this also goes for those of you that already have a partner, and that is there's a secret to keeping men around in a happy mood, and that is acknowledgement and appreciation. My husband used to say we're like dogs, just pet us. Yeah. And if we don't get it the first time, he would say, do it 3 times, please, in a row, and then I'll get it. So appreciation goes such a long ways, and I know you can look in your own heart and see that for yourself. Isn't it wonderful when you feel appreciated? And the next thing that I found is single women a lot think men only want one thing. And I found it's true, they do want one thing, but it's not what you think. Typically we think men want one thing, which is to have sex, no matter the age. And what I found actually over 25 years working with men and women both is that men do want one thing, and they want their women to be happy more than they want anything. And they don't know how to make us happy. A man loves to come home to a happy woman. If he comes home to a woman who isn't happy, he doesn't know what to do, so he doesn't want to come home. It's pretty simple. So we have a job, basically, and that's to look inside and find where do we derive our own happiness. Single or in a relationship, it doesn't matter. We have a job to do. Where do we derive love and where do we derive happiness? Now, out of my husband's passing, I found out something really key and important about love. And I'm actually going to give it to you as a gift right now in a short, brief, eyes closed exercise. So if you'd take everything off your lap real quick and uncross your arms and legs if you're willing. And close your eyes. And take a nice deep breath. And relax. Take another nice deep breath. And relax. Now, put your attention right now on your heart and your solar plexus. And I want you to imagine that what lives inside of you is a sun. It's so bright, it's almost blinding. And that sun actually vibrationally represents your essence, the vibration of your essence. You are the sun. And one of the things I know about the sun is it's everlasting and never changing. It remains constant. Even when we're experiencing the night, it remains constant. Now, keep in mind that this sun is you, the essence of you. And the vibration of this sun and the essence of you is identical to the vibration of love. They are synonymous. God, creation, love, and your essence are all synonymous. They're the same energetic vibration that lives unchanging inside of you all the time. And now I want you to imagine that you sometimes know you're not aware of it, the love in your heart, or you might have an upset or fear thoughts. And I want you to imagine those upsets and fear thoughts for a minute are floating by in front of you like a cloud. They're like a dark cloud. And they're eclipsing your sun or your light. Now notice as the cloud of upset or fear goes across in front of you, it eclipses your light, but I want you to look. It doesn't change your light. Your light remains. It's unchanging. And now let those clouds just float on by over to the left. And now you're radiating light again. And that light that you're radiating is love. It's everlasting and eternal. The only thing we have to do is become aware of it and release our fear. So imagine even further than that for a moment, that you can see that you are the generator of the source of love in your life. It's not outside of you. It doesn't come from somebody else. You're the generator of that energy of love and light. Our job is just to remember. And now one more thing. I'd like you to imagine that you're extending the rays from your sun out around you and spreading love into this room of wonderful women. Extend it beside you and behind you and around you. You're living in a bubble of love and light. You always have and always will. Now put your hand on your heart. Just take a nice deep breath of appreciation for yourself and the divine design that we each are. And that our job is just to remember. Take another nice deep breath, and when you're ready, come back into the room and smile at the other women at the table, spreading love. All right, so we are our own generator of both love and happiness. So whether we're single or with another, our job in life is to tap into the love that we already are. There's no place to go and there's nothing to do except to be who you are. Now, that was a key thing that I discovered after my husband passed away. So when I started going forward in life, thinking I'm single, maybe I want to meet some men in the future, I felt prepared in my heart that I don't need someone, but it would be great to have someone. Very different dynamic inside of me. I knew that I would be fine with someone or without, but I put myself through my own process of healing. And at the same time, I had 4 different clients that were dating online. So this is the 4th thing that I've heard that's an upset for single women, and that's hating dating online. I hear lots of stories about that. Well, I had 4 clients that were dating online, and they wanted me to coach them. Well, I won't coach anything I don't know how to do. So I went into research mode and rolled up my sleeves, and I spent 20 hours a week online dating. And I did this wonderful project. For 2 years I did this. And I wanted to figure out, like, what do you have to do to be safe, and what do you have to do to get to know people, and what do you do to be discerning, and what kind of questions should you ask to see what kind of person they are, and when is it too soon or not soon enough to decide to meet them in person. And my next book should be about internet dating, obviously. But and I think everybody who's internet dated has some, horror story of their own. One man that I thought seemed like a really great man, and he wanted to cook me dinner, so I said, a man will cook me dinner, I'll go anywhere. And he seemed like he was just fine, and I went to his house, and after dinner he turned on classical music, and I thought, oh, this is really nice. And he went over and shut the curtains in the living room, and I thought, I wonder why the curtains are closed in the living room. And he said, I have some naivete, if you haven't noticed. Anyway, and he went into the restroom, and he came out, and he didn't have any clothes on. And the only thing he had in his hand was a fan. And he did a fan dance for me. Needless to say, I found the door quite quickly, and he couldn't follow me because he had no clothes on. Oh, another time I met a man that seemed quite delightful, actually, and after we visited in a public place and got to know each other better, people tend to feel really safe around me, he said what he liked to do was cross-dress. And was it okay with me to date someone and that they're dressed as a woman? I said, no, I don't like competition. I don't. But when he said that, I clicked into this mode of like, oh my God, how interesting. And then I interviewed him. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so great. I love people, and I'm so curious about what makes all of us tick. And so what makes you tick? What do you get out of dressing as a woman when you go out in public, and how does that feel that you have another woman with you, and all these things. And I learned a lot. It was quite amazing. Then I said, well, I have to go to dinner. I haven't gone to dinner yet. He said, well, I haven't either, and so can I go? He said, well, you can, but drive your own car. And I went in the restaurant. I got there before him. Well, he comes walking in with a purse, and he's swishing, and he's half dressed as a woman. I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I do? And he called me the next day, and he's like, I think I found my mate, and you're it. And what I realized was, he felt accepted by me, which is true. A person can tell me anything as long as they're not harming me, and I can accept anything, and I find all those types of things interesting and curious. And he had never been that accepted before by someone, so he, thought it was something different that I was doing. But I interfaced with probably 200 men. And yeah, wow, I learned so much about men. You interview me sometime, I'll tell you all about men. And I met about 60. And this was 12 years ago or something. Two of them are my best friends. We're still friends. They both have other partners than me. One of them, after a few dates, it turned out he had been divorced 5 times. And he hadn't told me ahead of time. He didn't lie, but I forgot to ask. And so I said, I think instead of dating, what you need to be my client. So he... So he came and did a lot of, I do process work, eye movement work, and hypnotherapy and all kinds of things to help heal our subconscious mind and our wounds in history. And he came twice a week, 3 hours a week. Nobody has ever done that. And he healed 4 of his 5 divorces. And got into neutral. It was in 3 months. It was actually amazing. Well, I thought then maybe he was in the right vibration to date. But instead what happened was he ran into a friend and asked the friend about his first wife. Now he'd had 5, right? And he said, have you seen Joan lately? And the woman said, oh yeah, she's been divorced 2 more times and she's been single 10 years. And he said, oh, I'd like to connect with her. So he wrote to her. He hadn't seen her in 37 years. 3 weeks later, she moved in and they got married. So there's a lot of miracles and destiny that goes on around the work of love and the work of angels, and when true healing and vibrational change occurs, things like that happened. I knew I was destined to be with him, but it was just a different form that I originally had in mind. And what happened on about the 60th man that I met, it was somebody that I read his profile and I was like, oh my gosh, who is this man? He had so many exciting things on his profile. I thought, he doesn't belong here. He's like a whole new caliber. Well, what had happened during this 2-year period that I noticed was the more inner work I did, the higher the quality of men that were attracted. So we think of the law of attraction being like, well, I'm in a room and I attract somebody. But I want you to even imagine with technology, I'm here doing my online work and doing my inner work, my vibrations changing, and the quality of men I'm interfacing with begins to get better and better. And so I saw this profile and I said, oh my gosh, I wrote to him a one-liner, which is not usually what I did. I usually interfaced for 2 months on, interfacing with emails. I wrote a one-liner and said, who are you and where'd you come from? And he wrote back and said, where will you be Friday night at 7? I told him, and as I'm driving there, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm breaking all my rules. Am I going to be okay? And my heart started pounding. I normally don't get nervous about meeting someone, but I felt like I was really stretching out of my comfort zone in the style of what I was doing right there. I walked in the reception of the restaurant, and I recognized him from his photo. And he got up without saying anything and walked over to me and hugged me. And he held me. And I had this rush inside of the torso of my body of a sensation that I had been with him before. And I put my hands on his shoulder and I pushed him back and looked in his face and I said, oh my God, it's you and you've come. He said, what? I said, oh, never mind. And on the way to the table, I thought, I hope I like this guy because I'm going to be with him the rest of my life. Uh-oh, yeah. So we had this unbelievable 4-hour conversation at the dinner table. I asked him a couple of really hard questions that I wouldn't have been able to answer. And I said, what is relationship to you? He said, well, don't you find out each other's needs and meet them? Yeah, that's it. Glad you got the answer. And he said he was spiritual but not religious. And I wanted to know, that's important to me, so what does that mean to you? And he said, well, I talk to animals and they talk to me. And I see auras around trees, and I follow the golden rule, and I make sure everywhere I go, it's better when I leave. On top of it, in our life, I had 2 horses at the time, and no horse trailer or truck or anything. He had a ranch and a barn and a stable and a horse and a trailer and no horses. It totally cinched the deal. So amazing things can happen when we do our work. The first time I manifested my first soulmate, I was 16, and the second one, I was 61.
Wow.
So you're never too young and you're never too old to have love in your heart. Yes, yay. Yay, come on. Yay.